I called my mother and was like, I need to talk to you about something called boundaries. Like, that was a literal conversation I had with my mother. I remember it vividly. Describing to her what they were, because I had just learned in therapy what they were. Like, the idea of boundaries was not something that ever was instilled in me
Interesting.
as a child. There
How
was no
did she
such
handle
thing.
that?
Not well. Not well. She really acted out against that for a long time.
I wasted years of therapy. I could have just come on this podcast.
You probably got more info out of celebrities than anyone else.
In my private life, I was living a nightmare.
This was definitely no stock podcast.
I think we ought to do this every week now.
I lost my father when I was 7. And I think to be confronted with such a traumatic and powerful loss, I mean, it's the single most influential experience of my life, you know, and it set into motion for various reasons within me and around me, this cascade of events that shaped who I am or who I was becoming. And so I think there's something about coming into contact with the idea of mortality and the idea of, you know, life and death at such a young age, before I was fully formed in any way, shape, or form, that it just, I don't know, it just made me feel like I have no choice but to keep seeking, keep digging, keep going, keep looking, you know? And to understand and to integrate the trauma and the pain and the grief. It's been a life's work. And so I think that the why is, what's the alternative? To be unconscious? To be split off?
A lot of people would choose that.
Yeah,
It's
most people
fact,
choose that, I feel.
Yeah, so I mean, I really give you a lot of you're fortunate
Yeah.
that that's not the path you've chosen.
I feel deeply grateful for that. I really do. And I don't know to what I can attribute it. I don't know. You know, it's an alchemy. It's a thing that I was like, I just was born a seeker, and I want to know myself as deeply as I possibly can. And I've had to, you know, really do the work. And alone.
Alone.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I mean, you know, I feel like my trajectory is, I don't know, there's a solitariness to my experience of life so far, and there's a beauty in that and a power in that I never could have been comfortable with, you know, that I wasn't comfortable with for so long.
Or
I
were
felt
you
like,
trying to be...
Yeah, looking outside of myself, looking outside of myself for answers, for comfort, for love, for validation, you know, like why I can't, where is it? But staying on the path of the work and the digging and the looking and the healing, that's led me to a place where I realize that everything that I've ever looked for outside of myself is within me.
Yes.
And that is the penny that's dropped for me in a very different way now than ever before. And so, you know, it's just, yeah, it's been a very, and it's all happening actually right now. And the show that I'm here to talk about, Brilliant Minds, and Oliver Sacks, the lineage, like the sort of the broader cosmic elements that come into play, my relationships, creatively and professionally over the years, the people that have come into my life and shaped it. It's like now I'm at a place in my life where I have enough perspective to be able to see how those things have added up to bring me to this place, sitting here having this conversation with you right now.
And I want to tie it into the show too, because I also wasn't thinking about the fact that this show has so many elements also. So tell me about, well, first just tell me about your father.
My father, yeah. My father was an amazing man. He was he moved energies in the rooms that he was in. You know, people loved him. He was a really gregarious, outgoing, open person, creative. He was an artist. He was a musician. You know, he was really, his trade was he was a barber, a hairdresser. but he had a lot of different aspects of creative self, and he loved his family. He was just a really good man. And it was all the more tragic that he was taken from us so young. He died of cancer when I was 7, and it really just upended everything. You know, my first 7 years were in this. My parents were, relatively happily married. They had a good marriage, and my mom was a mom. She raised me and my brother, and my dad. And she really, they had a lot of friends. It was a very social life. I remember being a kid and like going to bed to the sounds of my dad playing the guitar and my mom singing in the basement, while I was upstairs trying to sleep or whatever. And they had friends down there, and there was just like that vibe.
Yeah, very warm.
Yeah, warm and loving, and so it was such a rude awakening to then have all of the fabric of our lives just be torn, by his loss. And I was just so ill-equipped to process or handle it at 7 years old, And it was at a time when child psychology and the awareness of children's consciousness was so much more limited than it is now. So the adults in my life didn't include me in the process of my father's illness and death.
They tried to protect
me
you.
from it. So it was this whole paradigm that got built around me that was like, wait a minute, I'm not a part of this thing that's happening. I wasn't a part of it. They would send me away to stay with family members when there were, procedures or tests that my father was going through so that I wasn't exposed to it. It was like, and I don't fault anybody or blame anybody.
Right, because they meant well, of course.
They were behaving from a place of what they thought love looked like. But it just created this kind of, isolation that I felt, and then compounded by the abandonment of losing, the primary source of male love in my life. So the what they thought was protective was actually so damaging, but I wouldn't know that for decades. I wouldn't know that for another 20 years. The damage that did. And that's where the therapeutic process began for me, to really deconstruct those complexes that were built around me, how my mother dealt with my father's death,
How did she deal with it?
Not well. She didn't really ever confront it or look at it. She never dated again. She never married again. She turned all of her attention to me. She looked to me to be a source of emotional stability for her in a way that no child should ever have to do for their parent,
Yeah.
And again, like, I love my mother. I lost her a few years ago, but we had a very complicated but profound relationship, and in the end of her life, it was just her and me in a room for a week, just the two of us, and me holding space for her and lifting the veil for her, and all of the work that I had done at that time in my life on myself. And, it really called on the deepest parts of myself to be able to do that for her, the shamanic parts of myself to be able to do that for her. And it was the greatest gift I've ever been given in my life, the biggest honor to hold space for her. But, it was a complicated journey that she and I had together, really complicated. And, yeah, and now here I am, right? Like, here I am at this point in my life, and I have no tethers. I have no parents. I have no children. I'm in this place in my life where I'm living this experience of profound and deep, meaningful connection to my work and to my life, to my friends, to my chosen family.
Right.
I have an older brother with whom I'm very close and I love, and we have a really wonderful relationship. We're very different, but family, that's where it all comes from, isn't it? And that's what we look for in our partners, and that's what we look for in our therapists, and that's what we look for to recreate and repattern the relationships that inadvertently harmed us, or inadvertently stunted us, or inadvertently built these beliefs around us that just aren't true. And so it's really been about undoing that and slowly and gently finding compassion for myself in that. When I was younger, I was so hard on myself, just so mean to myself in terms of like
About what?
just about, not being where I think I should be, or wanting more than I have, or, looking outside of myself, or comparing myself to other people, or thinking I'm not good enough, or thinking I'm not, I don't know, just like really, just hard. There wasn't a lot of compassion for myself as a kid because I was left to fend for myself in a lot of ways, you know? And I learned how to process grief and emotion as a child by watching adults, by learning. That's, I think, in a lot of ways, perhaps why I became an actor. The idea of observation and then mimicry, in a way, behavioral mimicry and emotional mimicry. That was something that I learned. I remember being in the funeral home when my father's, being laid out, 7 years old, and like just looking around, being like, I have no idea how I'm supposed to feel or behave, and no one is kneeling down in front of me, getting on my level to encourage me to find that with them. No one's guiding me, right? And so I was really left to look around and say like, okay, I guess I'll do it that way. I guess I'm sad. This is sad, right? I should cry. So let me try to cry. But it wasn't coming from a place of held experience.
Right, which is also kind of the way that they taught you, because they were isolating you, right?
Exactly.
To not do it.
So I felt abandoned. I felt alone, right? And so for many years, I felt like my aloneness or my solitariness was a deficiency in my experience. And now what I've come to see is it's one of my greatest strengths.
How have your relationships gone? Your partnerships?
I spent a long time pursuing people who are unavailable.
Well, hello,
Protecting
welcome
myself
to
from
most
intimacy.
people.
Yeah, well, protecting myself from intimacy, right? Because I was taught that, if there is something good, and if there is a connection of intimate love, and then obviously it's going to be corrupted. Something is going to go wrong. I spent a lot of my life waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I think I pursued people who weren't necessarily available to me in my early, years, looking for some guidance, looking for some sense of partnership or connection from people who just weren't able to give it to me. So that was like a first big lesson in me, learning how to navigate that. And then they evolved, and then, I had relationships that were successful and longer lasting. And then I went through a period of really being single for a long time. So that was really interesting.
Intentionally, or it just happened?
Not intentionally at all.
And what did that feel like?
I was in a relationship that ended badly. It didn't end well. We didn't exit the relationship with the same degree of grace that we entered it. And that was an unfortunate thing, and it ended suddenly. And I didn't see the end coming. It was something that I was really blindsided by. And so then I took a lot of time to transform. I took a lot of time to transform, and that transformation has been probably the single most valuable experience that I've had as a person so far.
Again, one of these, the hardest times.
Completely. The darkest nights of my soul have brought me to recognizing the brightest light in myself.
So you feel you're untethered, but you have an older brother. You're not. Are you in a relationship now?
Not going to talk about it.
Okay. A therapist doesn't want to hear that. It's fine. I accept it.
My mother was very much concerned with appearances and how people perceived us as a family, and, her as a person, and, how I made her look, right? I learned from a very young age that if I made my mother happy, if I made my mother proud, then I was a good son, then I was doing good, So this idea of like how to please her, how to take care of her, and how to tell the story that she sanctioned and signed off on.
What was the story generally?
Well, the story was, that it was all, that she was in control. Control was a very big issue for my mother her whole life. She, because I think in the face of the profound loss of her husband and the love of her life, she didn't know how to surrender to the vulnerability. She didn't know how to surrender to the grief. She didn't know how to feel it. She didn't let herself. And so control became something that was really important to her, because then it was something that she had power over. She didn't have power over the circumstance. She didn't have power over the situation of being left with 2 young boys to raise on her own, you know, having not worked for, you know, the entirety of her relationship with my dad, and then suddenly having to go to work and take care of us and make sure we were provided for. I mean, I can't imagine
It's a
really
lot.
the weight of that.
Yeah.
And again, I don't ever want to, I have the most profound, deepest respect and love for my mother. I feel like, you know, I'm the person I am today because of the sacrifices that she made in her life. And there's so much beauty and gratitude in that for me. So I'm not saying any of this to like blame my mother, criticize my mother. She was a powerful and beautiful woman, complicated. But, you know, that was something that I had to navigate.
Your mother was okay with you going to therapy to begin with? Or did she,
Well,
was
I
it
didn't
her
ask her for
idea,
permission.
or like
no,
what?
No. I mean,
okay.
no. I mean, I went to therapy. I started therapy at a time when I realized that certain aspects of my behavior that I thought were being generated from a pursuit of pleasure were actually probably coming from a different place that had nothing to do with pleasure, and actually maybe had more to do with escape or aversion. And so there was a discord in my relationship to aspects of my experience that I felt like warranted deeper examination. That's what got me to therapy in the first place. I remember the conversation when I called my mother and was like, I need to talk to you about something called boundaries. Like, that was a literal conversation I had with my mother. I remember it vividly. Describing to her what they were, because I had just learned in therapy what they were. Like, the idea of boundaries was not something that ever was instilled in me
Interesting.
as a child. There
How
was no
did she
such
handle
thing.
that?
Not well. She really acted out against that for a long time. And that was an interesting challenge for me, you know, because she resented, she started to really question where I was getting these ideas. You know, she started to blame
The therapist.
the therapist, but also like friends in my life that she perceived as being influences in my life in a way. She felt very threatened by the implementation of boundaries. But we got there in the end. You know, we got there in the end.
So let's tie it into Brilliant Minds now. It's so personal for you.
Yeah, it is. Well, right.
Like,
Because,
it really
you know,
is
in
on
ways
so many levels.
Yeah, in ways that I can't even describe. Aspects of the show and the character and his
Right.
relationship with his mother, and there are things about it that Michael Grassi, our showrunner and the writer of our show, never could have known, and put things in the show that I was like, wow, like what? If you only knew how resonant this is for me, you know, in my relationship with my own mother. It's been really cathartic in its own way to play that role.
It's a 1-hour drama, and it's, would you call it he said it last night, medical mysteries in every episode. So it takes place at a hospital in the Bronx, and you play a neurologist, head of neurology, perhaps. And so all of your patients have these medical conditions that are not getting better. So maybe, is that wrong?
It's not that they're not getting better. It's just that there may never be a resolution. Like, there's not a fix, right? So there's room for improvement, right? But there's probably never going to be a return to the way that they were before they were confronted with this particular disease, disorder, injury, or condition.
Okay. So like an example would be Alzheimer's.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a clear, easy one for everybody to understand.
Right.
But there would be other neurological conditions.
Right. Many other
and of course more interesting because
unbelievable neurological conditions that actually exist that we explore in the show. But yes, in the pilot episode, there is a character who's suffering from dementia, and how my character relates to him, and you know, paints outside of the lines to help him, is a big thrust of the show.
Right, and the quote was, it's not about what disease.
Ask not what disease the patient has, ask what patient the disease has. So I think it's important to say Brilliant Minds is a story that's based on a real life person, Dr. Oliver Sacks, who was a world-renowned, iconic neurologist who lived and worked in the 20th century. He died in 2015 at the age of 83. The film Awakenings, the Penny Marshall movie starring Robin Williams and Robert De Niro, is based on Oliver Sacks' life and work. He was a gay man, but he was very fractured from his identity as a gay man. He was celibate for 35 years of his life. I mean, never explored that kind of integration or intimacy until much later in his life, when he found a very fulfilling and substantive relationship in the last decade or so of his life. And that too is major for you to be able to play an openly gay man. And matter of fact, like, it's, you know what I mean? You just said it in the first episode. Your character said it. Like, there was one line about it. It's an aspect of who he is. It in no way defines him. But through the course of the season, Oliver Wolf, the character that I play, is forced to reckon with his own integration of self in a similar way.
Does it have to do with the other doctor?
I don't know. You'll have to walk me through it.
So you have all of these things coming into Brilliant Minds, and then the story that people will find out when they watch it is that you lost your father when you were young, your character, Dr. Wolf.
Right. And
your mother wanted everything to look fine for everyone else.
Yep.
So what are you telling me, that was written before you? And did somebody think of you because they knew these things? Like, what?
No, I don't think they thought of me because of that.
So interesting, though.
I don't know why they thought of me. I was the first person that they came to for the role.
You were.
Yeah. And so.
Did he tell you why?
No, I mean, no, I don't know that he did, really. I mean,
you just rose to the top of his.
I don't know. It seemed like something that, I'm an openly gay actor. I think it was important for them to find somebody who authentically represented that aspect of the character. It's a significant thing to be, the face of a primetime network television series that's telling the story of a gay character, and to be an openly gay actor and to have that. I think that was probably a place where they started in terms of, like, who could we work with on this and collaborate with on this, and then who knows?
So it's nice that you're kind of helping a lot of the general public, maybe who's used to watching network television and seeing these standard general people, able to see a little something.
Well, there's nothing standard or general about Oliver Wolf. That's true.
Right.
And so, I mean, I feel like I do feel proud of that. I do feel like that's a significant thing that warrants acknowledgement. But it's only, again, one aspect of who the character is, and not even the primary aspect of who he is. I would say his family of origin is really the source of his psychological exploration on the show.
Right, and they get into that a lot?
Oh, a lot.
And so that's really something that's pulling right from your...
Correct.
Oh, we could say ripped from the headlines.
Correct, yeah.
Of your
It's
life.
Kind of crazy, that. Yeah.
Nod to Dick Wolf on that.
Well, the show was originally called Wolf.
Yeah.
The show was originally called Wolf, and then it was called Dr. Wolf, and then NBC was like, guys, like, we cannot, like, the number of times that executives at NBC were getting emails about Wolf and thinking it had to do with Dick Wolf, like, it was just too much for the infrastructure of the network, actually, like. Dick Wolf has all of his shows on NBC, so it was like, we can't, it's too confusing, actually, which I think is hilarious.
That's
and
funny.
So they ended up changing the name to Brilliant Minds, which I think works better, actually, in a lot of ways.
Okay, let's go into your day-to-day life a little bit.
Okay.
Besides your therapy sessions.
Yeah.
So you live in New York.
I do.
And what's your life like there? What do you do? Where do you hang out? What are your favorite things?
Oh, I love my life in New York. I love my home. I love being home. I love working on my home.
Well, tell me about your home. You don't have to give us the address.
I won't tell you where it is, but I've lived in the same apartment for 10 years. I actually bought it with my ex, and we lived there together for about 4.5 years before we split. And I decided to stay. I decided to buy him out and to keep it, which for a while I remember being like, why the fuck did I do that? You know what I mean? Why did I choose to stay in this place that we built together? And now I'm so grateful that I did,
And it feels like yours.
Haven. It's just absolutely, I've just spent the last 5.5 years just, making it mine, and just,
With what kinds of things are you
art.
into? Oh.
I collect art.
So what's on the walls or on the shelves or both?
Yeah, everywhere. It's everywhere. I don't have any more space. I need to get a new place now so I can continue to expand my collection. So, I'm a real rug whore. I love rugs. I love
Really? So
rugs.
do you change them often,
Oh,
or you
yeah.
just have an
I have
enormous
s-
place?
No, I change them. I have rugs in storage. I mean,
Oh.
I'm like constantly getting new rugs. I can't go to a place like I was in Turkey last year and, ended up coming home with like 7 rugs from Turkey. And, I love buying rugs. And, I want to create a space that is a sanctuary. Always, always. And that's what my home is, and that's what it's become, and that's what it's evolved more and more into for myself.
Okay.
So that is a huge part of it.
So do you stay home mostly? Do you prefer that?
No, I love to be out. I'm very social. I love to be with
wait. We'll
people.
get social in a second, but what do you do when you are home? Like, what are the things you'll do around the house?
I read. I have 2 dogs, so my dogs are a huge part of my life.
Names and breeds?
River and Skunk. Skunk is a 14-year-old terrier mix, and River is a 4-year-old German Shepherd mix who I found on the street, and who has just been like, animals are a huge part of it. I've had dogs since I was 23. I got my first dog. I got my first cat when I was, let me think about this. I got my first cat, when I was 24. I got my first dog when I was 26. I've only ever had one cat in my life. I'll never have another cat. I never need another cat. I don't like cats. I found a cat on the street. It was the best cat you could ever imagine to grace the face of the earth. He was amazing. He was like a dog. He would come when you'd call him. He was amazing.
There are some cats like that, I think.
Amazing.
Not that
So
many,
cool.
but yeah.
Harold. And then I got a dog a couple of years later. So I had a dog and a cat. And then a few years after that, I got another dog. So I've always had dogs and multiple dogs.
Okay.
Animals are a big part of my life. I play the banjo. So I spend a lot of time with my banjo in my house. Love to watch films when I'm home.
So you love to go out. What do you like to do?
Love to go out. I love to be with people. Love dinners. I love to party. I love to be out in environments that are stimulating and unexpected, And so I love that. I love to go to the theater. I see a lot of theater. I'm a real theater nerd.
Well, and you are a theater performer.
I am.
So.
Yeah. Theater is my anchor. I love to come back to the theater always. I made a commitment to myself because I moved to Los Angeles when I graduated from Carnegie Mellon, where I studied theater, and unexpectedly things brought me to LA instead of New York. I always imagined I would come up in New York, right? And so that was an unexpected turn for me to move to LA. So
what brought you here?
There was more interest in me here. Like when you graduate from...
You have to come out here.
Yeah, when you graduate from Carnegie Mellon, you do a showcase in New York and a showcase in LA. And the showcase in LA just had more people wanting to work with me.
Okay.
More agents and managers, more casting directors were interested in I was a very sort of skinny, kind of gawky kid. And so I had this kind of energy that I think people thought was applicable to the style of that time, So they brought me out here, and so I didn't pursue the theater as robustly in my early career as I would have thought I would have, So in 2010, I had the amazing good fortune to do the first New York revival of Angels in America since the original production at the Signature Theater. And from that point on, I made a commitment to myself that I would always do a play every other year. And I've pretty much been able to keep to that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've done a lot of theater over the years, and so that is a huge part of my experience. And going to see theater and being inspired by other people's work is something that I absolutely love. So I love to do that and go to galleries, and I love to just walk in the city. I'm a real big walker. I take the subway. I'm a real New Yorker in that sense, that I love to avail myself of the surprises and the synchronicities that the city has to offer in its own unique way. So I love to just do that, go out, take the dogs, and not know where I'm going to go, but just take a long, long walk. And friends, I just love friends. I love to be with friends. That's really important to me, and I have a wonderful tapestry of friends in my life.
So is it one group of friends? You're saying it's a tapestry, so they're all different friends from all different...
Yeah, walks of life, different experiences.
That you've met at different times in your life also?
My closest friends are my friends from college.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You did good.
Yeah.
You did good in your life.
Thank you. I feel that way. I feel like I've arrived at a place in my life where I'm able to experience the gratitude for what I have right now, not just gratitude for what I've had and not just hope for what I might have, but real gratitude for what I have right now. And that's not something I could have said years ago. So I do feel like I've done the work. I've not taken my foot off. My therapist the other day, we were talking about stuff and we were having a real kind of, because I don't live in Los Angeles, so the majority of our relationship is on Zoom, which I hate. I don't love Zoom. I love to be knee to knee. But, since I'm here, I went to see her in person yesterday, and we were talking about some really profound shifts and transformations that I've been experiencing. And she said, you're a heavy lifter. And it's true. I really do feel that way about myself, and I do feel like I have a kind of compassion and a pride in the work that I've done. Compassion for myself as a result of the work that I've done. And I am proud of it, I never backed off, and I don't intend to anytime soon, because it never ends, like you said, We just keep going deeper. And hopefully, that depth is what invites us into richer and more meaningful experiences. They'll change, they'll be different, but that's my goal, and that's what drives me. So I'm someone who'll never stop seeking. It's just not possible.
So you will continue to find.
Continue to find. Yeah, you seek what you find, don't you? I mean, you find what you seek. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, this was really a pleasure.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I feel like it was a free therapy session a little bit, huh? For
no,
everybody to watch.
You're getting a bill at the end. What are you talking about? Did you not think that?
Oh, great. Yeah. You can send it to my publicists.